do too.
things going on.
Yeah, me
We're gonna
too.
get going, everybody.
Oh,
I
pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Sue.
Mr. Arcuri?
Here.
Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mr. Grodzki?
Here.
Mr. Core? Mr. Coyne?
Here.
Mr. DeLeo?
Here.
Mr. Ford? Mr. Kane? Mr. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Rotolo? Ms. Sesney? Here. Mr. Wallace?
Thank you. You have the June 18, 2018 draft minutes in your packet. Is there a motion to approve? Thanks, Danny. Second? Any discussions, additions, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a resolution establishing NVWA as lead agency, and I'll just turn that right over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, our first two resolutions, agenda items 4 and 5, have to do with closing out the State Environmental Quality Review Act process for our Toby Road tank number 3, a proposed future tank at some point in the future. Toby Road, like the Kavanaugh Road tank, which is agenda items 6 and 7, are both large tanks as part of our capacity expansion plan that if we ever were to enjoy a significant increase in demands due to chip fab or similar development, we would want to construct those and have financing available. What we want to do basically tonight is complete the environmental review for both those sites at Toby Road and at Kavanaugh Road in order to clear the way for design if we ever had to. We do own all of the land in both those locations. We have existing tanks at both sites as well as the piping and control facilities. So we could, financing being available, construct the tanks fairly quickly if we had to meet a large system expansion. The first agenda item, number 4, the first resolution basically establishes with the board approval the Mohawk Valley Water Authority as lead agency for making the seeker determination. That allows the authority to then vote on the second agenda item number 5, second resolution, which basically issues a negative declaration saying the authority has looked at the impacts. We have the parts 2 and 3 of the full environmental assessment form filled out for this tank and the Kavanaugh Road tank as well, and have found no significant impacts. Importantly, the involved and interested agencies all have agreed that we filled that out correctly, haven't identified any environmental or other social economic impacts of concern, and agreed to the board acting as lead agency for the purpose of declaring the negative declaration. So the first agenda will allow the board to become lead agency.
Our environmental council proposed.
Yes, so both O'Brien and Gear assisted with the filling out the forms and some of the support documents, and Wendy Marsh, our environmental counsel, prepared the resolutions, and they were reviewed by Ken Bobrow, the board counsel.
So the first resolution, which is in your packet, any questions regarding that one?
I'll move it.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Yes, Vince?
Nope.
Oh. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. And then the second resolution is written in our packet. Someone care to move that one? Vince, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, comments, questions regarding that resolution? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The next resolution,
Basically, the next two resolutions, agenda items 6 and 7, do the exact same process for the Kavanaugh Road tank. Again, no comments from the agencies or the interested, which is the town of Marston. So we, again, clear to move on to that.
I'll move that. Second.
any further questions, discussion? Okay, these were prepared by our environmental
Same.
council as well.
Same process.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The next resolution, accepting parts 2 and 3.
Same thing, I'll move that one.
Thank you, Rocco.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. And the final one, Dick?
The final one is the starting the environmental review process for the Snowden Hill tank located on Snowden Hill, to be located on the Snowden Hill Road in the town of New Hartford. It is what we term a high zone tank. It will significantly expand our storage in that area, improve pressures and reliability significantly. It will also, construction of this tank will allow about a 90-year-old elevated tank on Gilbert Road to be taken out of service, which we've been planning on doing for a number of years. We borrowed for the money several years ago due to some of the work on the pipe bridges and raw water mains. Kind of got pushed off to the side in terms of the schedule, but at this point, Ken Bobrow is working on some of the property acquisition and easements. At this time, we need to commence the secret process. Basically, it's part one of the form as prepared by O'Brien and Gear and ourselves, and then that will be issued to the involved agencies. Same agencies as the other two tanks, but instead of the town of Marcy, it'll be the town of New Hartford will receive the information.
It's approval on that, I mean, as far as does it have to go through zoning and planning on it?
We do not have to comply with that, but we do go out and meet with them as far as any screening or things like that.
And you said we already have the money allocated? for this?
Yeah, $2 million was borrowed. It's a 1.2 million gallon project.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second.
And again, prepared by our environmental
Yes,
council.
Brian and Gear and us, and environmental, and Ken Bobrow, all involved. Plenty of money.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Dick. And you also know that those resolutions that has got some pictures and reporting on some of our ongoing projects. Jim, on the second quarter investment statement?
Yes. I believe in your booklet is the second quarter ending investment statement for June 30th, 2018. Public Authorities Law requires that we present to you quarterly investment statements showing the balances, any earnings, and any expenses related to those investments. So we're showing as of March, but also showing activity for June. The big change is that several investments matured, and so we reinvested those, and now we're taking advantage of some treasuries that seem to be doing better than CDs these days. So investments are changing, so it's a good thing.
Just one question, do we have any capital projects that we're gonna have to start funding? I mean, just with the rates starting to rise,
Yes.
is it a good time that we maybe jump on them now just to lock
Well,
in?
Yeah, and that's what we do, is from time to time, well, we go over with Dick, when is he gonna need that money? And he does a projection out months and years, and so based upon that, we know what we can invest for 6 months, a year, 2 years. So we work with him and we tag each one.
You're talking about
of those.
borrowing.
I'm talking about on the borrowing side.
Oh,
Do we-
okay. I'm
But
sorry.
that's actually, that's good too.
Yeah, we have
we're doing
discussed
that.
it. We would have been probably planning to borrow now if it would not have the $2-point-something million we get from the state to continue on the pipe bridge project and the transmission line. It kind of postponed the need for the next borrowing, but not by that much. And our financial advisor down in New York City, Rick McCarthy, is very good about checking in with us fairly frequently to see what our plans are and alerting us to any potential rate changes. So
Okay.
we will, it's a good suggestion. We should probably conference call with Rick and just look at what's going on with rates and start talking about the next batch of projects and how much we're gonna need. So at least we're ready to come to the board and get it started if we need to.
Probably should assume 0.25% up every quarter for the next year and a half.
Probably.
I mean, so you could be, in a year, you can
That's
be
probably
looking at
possible.
At least a
another
1.5%,
percent, so, right, so,
Yeah, that's what we're seeing on the investment side.
yeah.
Anything else? No? Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve the statement as of 6/20/2018? Thanks, Bruce. Second. Thanks, Rich. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Anything on the finances?
Consumption is up about 2.6% for the year. Revenues are in line with, 2.6%. And revenue is in line with the budget. And cash flow is now pretty much fully recovered from our outlays in January, workers' comp, some other insurances that we pay out, and even going back to previous year when we paid retirement. So as of June 30th, we're now getting into positive cash. So that's good.
Any questions for Jim? Thanks, Jim. Pat?
I've got a couple of items, and then the last one we'll save for executive session. First, I want to mention that if you've been watching at all or paying attention to news, it's been very dry. Delta Reservoir was in the news recently. Channel 2 last week did a story on how low that is and some of the problems you're having with it. Hinckley is also running several feet below normal for this date and time of year. It would have been worse, but the Canal Corporation decided on June 27th to reduce the outflow through the dam. According to the operating diagram, yes or no? They would have been normally going right around 400 cubic feet per second, which is about 260 million gallons a day through the dam. They did do a cutback to 250 CFS from 400. A fairly substantial cutback. That's pretty much the lowest they go, just to make sure they can meet the base creek needs. And so that's stopped it from dropping. We were losing, I don't know, a foot maybe every 3 or 4 days. Now we're losing about 2 inches a day, waiting for some more rain. But it's one of those situations, and we're going to graph it out, and we'll be taking it down to the Thames Skyler, which I'll get to next. But it just goes to show you that with the right management, and as we've always said for years, a modest cutback early on is a great way to avoid a head-on collision with disaster.
Send them some fruit or some fruit basket?
Yeah, we should do that.
Scotch or something?
It's about 12, 13 and a half right now. It's nothing dangerous for us. We can certainly operate with. We have probably at this point 17, 18 feet. They could drop before we start to get real concerned about our own operation. Certainly though, for canal needs and stuff, they're having trouble getting enough water to meet navigation. People that live on a reservoir recreation are seeing a whole different story right now. Even the lower West Canada Creek for recreation is not what it would be. And at the base flow in the creek at this point is down to about 80 CFS. Is that what we described this morning?
Inflow.
Oh, the inflow coming in.
Inflow into the reservoir.
So without the reservoir, that would be the outflow
So we should
essentially.
have in the creek.
And it's near historic lows. You can go back to the times when the dam wasn't even built yet. So it has been dry. We're not in a declared drought yet, but we're probably getting pretty close to it.
Health is also a source for the canal.
Yes.
Do we keep track, do we know what they're trying on?
We do. We don't look at it that regularly, but they have a lot less fluctuation on that reservoir. It's not as deep. They tend to have stabilized that over the years, but it is lower than normal. It's about 4 feet below normal right now. We've been a delta. And so they're having problems with some algae growth in the bottom. I will say though that it was good to see that change from the Canal Corp to do that cutback. So at this point, however, they're going to owe flows to Brookfield Power, which is downstream. The way their new contract is that whenever they under-release, based on what the diagram calls for, they have essentially 14 months to try to make that up with over-releases. If they can't make them whole, they have to cut them a check. So the downside is that Brookfield Power, I think, had some pretty good attorneys, because now they're guaranteed to do just as well in dry weather as they do in wet weather, even though the natural resource may not be always available, as we're seeing right now. It's not a bad deal if you can get it. Speaking of Hinckley Reservoir, apparently the Schuyler Town Board had a visitor that proceeded to proclaim that the water authority is draining Hinckley Reservoir. The Great Dam needs to be rebuilt. Apparently this board should be disbanded and should all be turned back to the Hinckley Water Board, et cetera, et
We'll do that
cetera.
next meeting.
Pardon?
We'll do that next meeting.
Yeah, okay. But I will be at the Schuyler Town Board meeting. Betty was kind enough to get me on the agenda to just go down and do a quick overview of, the facts that we only use 3% of all the water that flows through the system, et cetera. So We will react to that. You can't let that stuff sit, unchallenged.
Bring the shot glass on it.
Yeah, there we go.
Again,
Bring my little damn model out that I built years ago.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I explained it.
So that'll be on August 8th. It's a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. I'll be down at Town Skyline. Ilion, you probably also on the news, and I think we circulated an article to you. Tomorrow, Dick and I are meeting with Assemblyman Brian Miller. It's within his district. He wants to get up to speed on what's going on and become involved in the process, which I think is great. I'm sure Ilion will welcome it as well. And as you may have seen the comments in the media, I thought I was speaking for the board at least to say that we're certainly willing to entertain the idea and listen. It's an idea that was talked about 17 or 18 years ago and has now come back full circle because the decision they made is now being reconsidered. So as soon as those discussions start to take some shape, we'll keep you involved obviously in the process and let you know how it goes. Another thing I want to mention, Ken's not here tonight, but I did call him the other day to let him know he was very pleased. The two hydroelectric turbines that we have installed, one is within the treatment plant, one's downstream of the treatment plant. We finally got the city of Utica to deed them over to us, we now own them. So that's a good thing, it was
Do they
actually officially transferred. Pardon?
Do they work?
Yes. No. They've worked all along. But at the time of the sale of the water system and the transfer to this new board, there were long-term power purchase agreements in place. And so we needed to keep the name the same on the contract, or we would have lost the price we were getting from National Grid at the time. So the agreement was that as long as they held debt service and payments were being made, we were funneling those payments through the city. They were actually making the debt payments. And once the debt was dissolved, then ownership would revert to us. The debt payment was actually completed 3 years ago, approximately. Jim?
More than that.
Was it more than that? Time flies. I can't keep
It's
track.
like 5.
It took us a while to just sort of corral the city and get them to sign the documents and hand it over. Nothing against the city. We kind of forgot about it a little bit ourselves. So Ken got after them, and we now own the 2 hydro plants that we've been operating
And maintaining.
since the 1990s. So that's a good thing. Last thing I'll mention real quickly is the budget timeline. Oddly enough, we're sitting here in the middle of the summer and we're thinking about next year's budget. We discussed it at our staff meeting. Our accounting department, Jim and his folks will be preparing the request packets to our various departments here, and we're going to begin working on a draft budget. The board typically would vote on both the rate structure after the public hearing and the budget at our October meeting. We want to have a draft budget to you as early as we can in September, so that there's time to fully deliberate. And it may be a little more involved this time around because we have an upgrade, or an update rather, on our rules and regulations that we want to bring to the board. We're trying to clean them up a little bit, modernize them a little bit to match operation and the actual practices out there. And there likely will be some proposed fee changes in those which have to go to their rate hearing as well. So we thought we'd cover all of that as part of the same process and even maybe discuss setting up another rate schedule as well, which I'll get to in the executive session. But just to kind of alert you ahead of time, we're only about 6 weeks away at this point from having a draft budget that we think we can begin to start setting up to the board and trying to schedule around your convenience, of course, some budget hearings or budget review workshops. So we'll just keep you posted. I just wanted to plant that thought so it's not a surprise. That's all I have for now, unless there's any questions. The rest I'll save for executive session.
Any questions for Pat? Thank you. Any old business? Any new business? We need a motion to go into executive session regarding contract negotiations. Second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.